If you teach college courses, you know what's about to happen. A new year is about to launch. A new year is on the brink. And as a result, you're going to experience convocation, departmental meetings, retreats, maybe a little sprinkle of professional development, course redesign, syllabus revision, and all of the things. But how often has your university, your department encouraged you to pause and process the academic year you just left? In fact, if you don't want to think about the entire academic year, how often have they told you just to look back over your shoulder at the spring semester or the semester before? Well, today, you are going to learn why the spring semester or the previous academic year may still be shaping how you feel about teaching, even though it ended just months ago, and how a few minutes of intentional reflection can help you decide what to learn from, what to carry forward, and what you may finally be ready to release. Welcome to the first episode of Reflective Reset Sundays. I'm Dr. Kellie Alston, and I created this 8-week series to give faculty like you a calm, guided space to pause, process their academic experiences, and prepare for what comes next with greater intention. Each week, we're going to explore one concept related to reflective practice. I will share a brief lesson, guide you through a simple exercise, and then give you uninterrupted time to reflect. This is not another training that you have to complete. Can I get an amen? This is simply an invitation to slow down. Slow down enough to hear what your experiences may be trying to teach you. For today's reflection, you will need a journal or a sheet of paper or a digital space where you feel comfortable writing. You may also use the free companion I've created called the Reflective Reset Companion. You can access it at bit.ly/reset companion. You can use the QR code or the link that's in the description. But please don't let the absence of the guide stop you. A blank page will work just fine. Now, I want to lay out our schedule, our agenda, our format for you. I do this with my courses, and I want to do this with you as well so that you know what we're going to be doing every single week. There are going to be 5 movements which guide us each Sunday. If you have your companion, this is on page 4. We're going to breathe so we can settle our mind and body. We're going to notice, name what happened or what we observed. We're going to reflect, consider what the experience may be teaching us, and then we're going to discern. There's nothing like discernment. We're going to identify what matters most now. And lastly, we're going to act. This is the beautiful part of reflective practice because we're going to choose one small, intentional next step. So those are our 5 moments: breathe, notice, reflect, discern, and act. And before we take our time to breathe deeply, I want to share with you that I just learned maybe a year or so ago how important deep breathing is. And so I would encourage you to look that up. You can look on YouTube for some information about deep breathing. And there's so many videos on these exercises. And so I try to do this in the morning when I wake up, and I try to do it before I go to bed. And you can also do it throughout the day. So let's practice that breathing that we're going to be doing for the next 8 weeks right now. Sit in a position that feels comfortable for you. When possible, Place both feet on the floor. Allow your shoulders to lower. Relax your hands. And notice whether you are holding any tension in your face or specifically in your jaws. You do not have to force yourself to feel calm. We are simply giving the body permission to settle. Take a slow breath in through your nose for 4 counts. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Pause gently. Now exhale slowly for 6 counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, if you're not used to doing this, that exhale slowly might be a little difficult. You might be releasing that air a little before the count. That's okay. The more you do it, the easier it becomes. Let's do that again. Breathe in for 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale for 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One final breath. Inhale slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4. And as you exhale, allow yourself to become present in this moment. For the next few minutes, you do not need to solve the entire semester. You only need to become quiet enough to notice what remains with you. When you are ready, bring your attention back to my voice. I hope you do feel settled, because now I want to just share a little bit about myself. I taught full-time online as a distance education lecturer for 19 years. And every academic year, I taught 4 courses in the fall, 4 different courses in the spring, and 2 courses during the summer. So I know how easy it is to finish grading, submit final grades, close a course, move immediately into the next course, the next semester, the next summer school session, and the next responsibility. There's always another deadline in higher ed, another course shell to prepare, another concern that requires our attention. But here is something that I learned. Completing a semester and processing a semester are not the same thing. A semester can be officially over while parts of it are still very much alive in us. That understanding is one reason I became so passionate about helping faculty monitor both their teaching and their well-being through reflective practice and what I call the WIRE approach, week in review approach. But let me make this a little bit more personal and share a little story with you. In the spring of 2022, 3 students in one of my courses filed a complaint with the administration. They had enrolled in a synchronous course that met on Thursday evenings, but they rarely attended the live sessions. They struggled with quizzes, missed assignments, and often came to class without completing the preparation that had been outlined for them. I had provided a course orientation, tutorials, agendas for every live session, regular announcements, feedback, email outreach, and invitations to meet with me individually. When the complaint was raised, I gathered what I thought would provide a clear picture of the experience: attendance records, grades, login histories, assignment feedback, course materials, communication records, and examples of the many ways students were being guided. But even after I presented that evidence, I was told that the students did not feel supported. I was then directed to create an additional success plan and offer remedies that, from my perspective, did not align with the students' documented participation or the established course requirements. The experience left me feeling dismissed, angry, and professionally unsupported. And although those were only 3 students in a class of 25, and only one of the 4 courses I was teaching, the experience followed me. The semester ended, the grades were submitted, the course closed. But the experience did not close inside me. It tried to follow me into the fall semester. It affected my enthusiasm. It made me question how much more I could possibly do, and it threatened to shape the way I showed up for students who had nothing to do with what had happened. At some point, I had to acknowledge that simply telling myself to move on was not helping me move forward. I had to process the experience. I had to ask what it had done to me, what it might teach me, what required further examination, and what I refused to let it take from me. This is the work of reflective practice. Now, perhaps your spring semester did not include an experience like mine, but there may be a student, an interaction, a disappointment, a success, an unanswered question, or even a feeling that continues to return. Today, we are going to create enough space to notice it. The first reason reflective practice matters now is that a semester can end without feeling complete. The academic calendar gives us an official ending. The final assignment submitted, grades are posted, the learning management system is archived, you have that out of office response that you have going for your emails. But our intellectual and emotional responses do not automatically follow that calendar. We may still be carrying concern about a student who disappeared near the end of the semester. We may be replaying an uncomfortable conversation. We may feel disappointed that an assignment did not produce the learning we expected. We may be wondering why students struggle with something that seems so clear to us. And we may be exhausted by how much support the semester required. Or we may be carrying something positive: a student's message, a breakthrough moment, a successful activity, or a renewed sense of purpose. Carrying something from a semester is not automatically a problem. Sometimes we carry over a little bit of wisdom, We carry over gratitude. We carry evidence that we are growing. The important question is whether we have consciously decided what deserves to come with us. Because when we do not pause to examine what we're carrying, the past may begin shaping the future without our conscious permission. A painful experience may become an assumption about the next group of students. Can I get a witness? One difficult student may cause us to become guarded with everyone. One unsuccessful assignment may convince us that an idea has no value, even though the real issue may have been its instructions, its timing, its support, and a whole lot of other factors. And on the other hand, a beautiful teaching moment may be forgotten before we understand how to recreate the conditions that made it possible. Reflection allows us to ask, why is this still with me? And does it belong in the next semester? The second reason reflective practice matters is that experience does not automatically become learning. We sometimes assume that because we've been teaching for a long time, we must be learning from everything that happens. But experience alone is not the same as insight. I said experience alone is not the same as insight. We can have the same frustrating experience semester after semester without ever stopping to examine the pattern. If you can relate to that, please put it in the comments or the chat. We can continue telling ourselves, students just do not read. Students do not want to participate. Students should already know this. This generation is different. Nothing I do seems to work. Some of those observations may contain truth, but without reflection, they remain conclusions rather than questions. Reflective practice invites us to move through a different process. We have an experience. We examine that experience and we consider its meaning. And then we decide how that meaning should inform our next action. In other words, experience becomes useful when we examine it. Reflection helps us move from students did poorly on this assignment to what does their work reveal about what they understood, misunderstood, or were not prepared to do. It helps us move from they were disengaged to what evidence of disengagement did I observe and what are the possible explanations? It helps us move from that activity went wonderfully to what conditions may have made that activity successful and how might I build on them? Reflection does not require us to blame ourselves for everything that happens. Faculty are not responsible for every student decision, every institutional problem, or every circumstance affecting a course. But reflection does help us identify what was within our influence, what was outside it, and what information we may still need. That is how experience becomes usable wisdom. The third reason reflective practice matters is that reflection is not the same as rumination. Now, I am so guilty of ruminating. I have to stop myself from this negative self-talk And from replaying events over and over again, what someone did, what someone said, how I responded, should I have responded that way? I can't believe they said that. What did she do? I can't believe she did that. What did they not do? Right? And so the distinction is important. We need to distinguish between reflection and rumination. Rumination keeps us circling an experience. It replays the same scene. It repeats the same argument. My. It keeps asking why something happened without helping us understand what to do with it. Rumination might sound like, why did they treat me that way? Why did those students refuse to do what was required? Why could I not make this work? Why am I always the one expected to do more? Those may be honest questions, and sometimes we need to acknowledge them before we can move forward. But reflective practice gently changes the direction of the inquiry. It asks, what did this experience reveal? What was within my influence? What was not within my control? What meaning have I assigned to what happened? Is there another perspective I should consider? What information do I still need? What boundary, strategy, conversation, or change might be necessary? And what deserves compassion rather than judgment? Reflection has direction. Its purpose is not to keep us trapped inside the past, but its purpose is to help us learn from the past so that we can move forward with greater awareness and intention. In my own experience, reflection did not require me to decide that what happened was acceptable. It did not require me to deny my anger or my hurt. It did not require me to pretend that I had been unaffected. Reflection allowed me to tell the truth about the experience without allowing the experience to determine how I would serve every student who came after that. That is an important difference. So it's okay for us to reflect, but we want to put a hard stop on ruminating because, again, reflection has direction. Let's begin by identifying what may still be with you. This is our reflection exercise. So take out that sheet of paper or that journal or the guide that you may be using. And for me, I like an open space. So if you have your guide, you may not have an open space for this part. You may want to write this on the back of a page or just get a separate page where there's no lines and you can be free. At the top of your page, complete this sentence. When I think about the spring semester, or when I think about, and you can put the previous academic year, for today would be the 2025-2026 academic year, the first experience, person, question, feeling, success, or concern that comes to mind is. So you don't have to write that sentence, but complete that sentence. What comes to your mind immediately? Is it a beautiful moment that you experience? Is it a hurtful moment that you experience? Is it a instructional strategy you implemented and it just it went left? Think about that for a moment. Write the first thing that surfaces. Just one, just one. Now, look at what you wrote and ask, why might this still have my attention? Is there an emotion attached to it? Is there an unanswered question? Is there something I have not fully acknowledged? Is there a lesson I do not want to lose? Is there a decision I have not yet made? Think about those. That was quite a few questions. But the main question that you're answering is, why might this still have my attention? As you prepare for our longer reflection, I want to offer 3 possibilities for what you are carrying. The first is carry forward. This may be something valuable, a practice, an insight, a reminder, a relationship, a source of gratitude that you want to bring intentionally into the next semester. The second is examine further. This may be a concern, a pattern, maybe an unanswered question that requires more information. You may need to revisit student work, review some feedback that you receive, examine course data, talk with a colleague. You might have that buddy that you can vent to and problem solve with and strategize with, or investigate an assumption before deciding what it means. So, number 1, carry forward. Number 2 is examine further. And the third is release. This may be something you have acknowledged and learned from, but no longer want occupying the same emotional or mental space. Release does not mean pretending that something never happened. It does not mean denying its impact. It means deciding that the experience will no longer have unlimited access to your energy. You do not have to know your category yet. You can decide this as you spend time reflecting, because our reflection time will help you listen more closely. Now, in a moment, I'm going to give you just 5 minutes. Now, a few summers ago, I did 7 minutes. That's my favorite number. But I'm just going to give you 5 minutes for our Reflective Reset Sundays. And if you need additional time, certainly take it. Now, you may write continuously because you're going to see several prompts, and don't feel obligated to respond to all of them. You can just choose one of those prompts. You can even sketch. Maybe you want to draw it out. Maybe you want to create a mind map. Maybe you need to make a list, or you might just want to sit quietly and notice what arises. You might be replaying in your mind the event or the circumstance or the situation just to kind of refresh your memory during this 5 minutes, and you may write a little bit later. Remember, you don't need to answer every question. If you're in the guide, you're going to see that there are about 5 questions there. I'm going to put them on the screen, but just choose the one that seems to be asking for your attention. A timer will remain on the screen and the prompts will change as the reflection continues. So I'll just be flashing those questions across the screen. And if you're not watching during the live or the premiere, you're watching this as a replay, you can just stop the video if you choose to answer all the questions, or you can just read them and as one comes to you, just answer that one. And because this is a pre-recorded experience, you have another option, which is to, well, not another option because I gave it to you before, but that is again to stop the video and you can take as many minutes as you need to, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, or as much time as you need. If you're like me, 5 minutes is probably not going to be enough. Unless it was like a happy moment, you might be able to just say that very quickly. But if it's something that really tugs at you, you might need to go off in so many words. Now, remember, you don't need perfect words. You only need a pause. Take one slow breath, and when you are ready, begin. Welcome back. Before you move away from your page, take a moment to notice what happened during those 5 minutes. Did something surprise you? Did a recurring thought become clearer? Did you recognize that you had been carrying something without ever naming it? Perhaps you discovered that what remains from the semester is not a burden at all. It may be an insight you want to preserve, a practice you want to repeat, a student's words that reminded you why your work matters. Or perhaps you recognize that an experience is still asking for further examination. You may need information that you don't have yet. You may need to review a course element or have a conversation before deciding what the experience means. And perhaps you identified something you are ready to begin releasing, not because it did not matter, but because it has already taken enough from you. Since this is a pre-recorded video, we are not sharing in a live chat. This is a premiere chat, but we can still create a space for collective reflection in the comments. You might complete one of these sentences. I am carrying. I am ready to release. I want to investigate. Or, one thing the spring semester taught me is, or one thing the last academic school year taught me is, and please share only what feels appropriate for a public space. But I really would love it if you would share. If you don't feel comfortable, if it's very, very personal, then don't. But you can just say which one of the 3 or 4 that you decided. Are you carrying? Are you releasing? Are you investigating? Or is there an overall theme that came out of this for you? Before we close, choose one small next step. Complete this sentence. Because of what I noticed today, my next reflective step will be. Make the step small enough that you are likely to take it. Reflection becomes most powerful when insight is allowed to inform intention. Today, you experienced what can happen when we give one teaching experience our full attention. But reflective practice becomes especially powerful when it is not something we only do at the end or at the beginning of a semester. It becomes powerful when it becomes a rhythm. That is the purpose of the WIRE community. And WIRE again stands for Week in Review. The WIRE community is where academics reflect and connect through shared experiences. And I will be launching it in August the 1st. Inside the community, we use the Professor's Week in Review to create a rhythmic and systematic approach to reflective practice. We will gather for collective reflection, optionally, of course. We're going to be using guided prompts to examine our teaching, our students, our concerns, our successes, our action plans, and our well-being. We will also learn from resources, guest speakers, special events, and one another's experiences. If today's reflection helped you recognize that you need a consistent place to pause, process, and connect. I invite you to learn more about the WIRE community through the link in this description and the QR code here, as well as the link bit.ly/the WIRE community. Lost my train of thought. You can also download the free Reflective Reset Companion and use it throughout all 8 sessions in this series. So there's 2 things you can do. You can consider becoming a part of the WIRE community, and you can download the companion guide that's going to go with our sessions for the next, after this week, it'll be 7 more weeks. In our next reflective recess, we are going to explore what you learned about your students. We're going to think about the question, what did students show me through their behavior, questions, silence, performance, or persistence? Maybe we learned something from them, from their disengagement or their request for help. But before we can decide and design what meaningful learning experiences are for our students who will enter our next courses, we need to pay attention to what the students who were already with us tried to teach us, whether we like it or not. So, as we close, I encourage you to subscribe to the channel so that you will be notified when our next session is coming up on next Sunday, and return for our next reflection. And remember, the semester may be over, but it may still have something to teach you. The question is whether you will give yourself the space to listen. Now, please go tell a colleague that we're going to be here for the next 7 weeks, and I will see you at the next reflective reset. Bye-bye.